Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is 3:31, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with our 8th Annual Career Development Conference event walkthrough. I am Beth Vander Ark, the Operations and Training Supervisor for the statewide team, and as you may already know, a big portion of my job or role with Jobs for Michigan's graduates is to plan our events. So I have been the main person behind the CDC so far this year. Of course, I have some help as well, but if you ever have questions about the CDC or other events, I'm the person you would want to reach out to with questions. What I'm hoping to do today is give you an overview of what you should be expecting when you attend the Career Development Conference, as well as what you may need to do ahead of time to prepare. I would welcome any questions throughout our call today. I will be watching the chat box today, so if you have questions, you can go ahead and post them in there. Also, I am recording this session, so it will be available after the call today to share with anyone who was either unable to attend or had to leave early or arrived late. So rest assured, we'll get you the information you need whether or not you're on the call today. So I'll go ahead and get started then. To just give you a brief overview of what to expect as far as volume at the Career Development Conference this year, our attendee counts are very similar to last year. If you attended last year, we're looking at having about 235 JMG students attending. We currently have 61 volunteers registered. 50 specialists or managers have signed up to come. We have about 10 VIP guests, which consist of legislators and our Youth Solutions board members. And then just one last little fun number up there, we have 28 awards that we're looking to give out this year. I just want to get our volunteer talk out of the way. I know you've been hearing from me probably way more than you want to lately about needing volunteers for the CDC. As you may know, our volunteers serve to judge the events that your students are participating in, and we are looking for a minimum of 70 volunteers. I have received so many volunteers this past week, so thank you to everyone who has been recruiting and sending that volunteer information my way. As of this afternoon, we have 61 of our needed 70 volunteers. So once again, thank you to everyone who has been recruiting. We do have room for a couple more volunteers. So if you know of anyone that would like to attend, or if you have people you could reach out to, we have room for about 10 more. And just to note, if you're wondering why we invite so many judges, last year 20 of the 70 registered judges were not able to attend. Either last minute they canceled and I didn't have time to find a replacement, or they didn't show up. So I do try to overcompensate for that a little bit, knowing that people do get busy or forget. So that's why the number is so high. We would welcome more than 70, so if you have additional above and beyond that, please send them my way. The invitation that you can share with volunteers is posted on the CDC 2017 Slack channel, so you can find it there, or if you're having trouble accessing it on Slack, just let me know and I would be happy to email it to you. Okay, so one question I've already been getting a lot is questions about parking at the Lansing Center. So you should all have the address already for the Lansing Center, and I'm going to go over with you a couple of different parking options. There is a charge for parking, so be prepared when you arrive. I'll go over the different fees associated with the various parking options, but just keep that in mind to make sure you're ready for that when you arrive at the Lansing Center. The first and most convenient parking option is the parking that's actually right on site at the Lansing Center. So there's a parking garage located underneath the Lansing Center, as well as parking adjacent to it, which you can see on the map on your screen. I have the address listed there. Parking is $7 per entry, so that will cover you for the full day, regardless of how many people are in your vehicle. So I would pack up a van and use that option. If you want to use the parking garage, I would try to arrive a little bit early just to make sure there's a spot a bit available for you in there. Depending on what other events are going on that day, parking might be a little tight. No guarantees, so I would just plan to arrive a little early if you're dead set on parking in the parking garage at the Lansing Center. So like I said, it's $7 per vehicle, and you can pay with cash or credit card for that option. The next option is the North Grand parking ramp, which is very close to the Lansing Center. It's just across the river, located adjacent to the Radisson Hotel. They actually do have a skywalk across the river from that parking option over to the Lansing Center. So that, especially if it's raining or cold, that's another good option that you don't have to brave the elements to make it to the Lansing Center for that one. So like I said, that is located adjacent to the Radisson Hotel, right across the river from the Lansing Center.
There you go.
It is, as far as the cost for that one, it's $1 per 30 minutes or $10 max. So once again, that one's not too extravagant. So at the Lansing Center, it was only $7 for the day. And just a reminder, if you can go ahead and mute your phones so that we're not getting all the background noise, that would be great. So this option at the North Grand parking ramp, that's $10 max for the day, and they also accept cash or credit card. And then the third option is South Grand parking ramp. This one's a little further away, but still not, super far. It would only be about 5 minutes or less to walk. So this one is $1 per half hour or $12 max. So this is the most expensive of the three options, and they only accept a credit card. So if I were you, I would shoot for getting to the Lansing Center in time to park there. If not, I would head over to the North Grand parking ramp and then leave the South Grand as my third option. Obviously, it's up to you what you want to do, but that would be my recommendation. If you are arriving by a bus, all buses need to be coordinated through the city of Lansing. So they have to make special arrangements for buses to stop outside the Lansing Center. So I have the contact information available on this slide, which will be posted. I'll post the name and phone number into Slack also. So if you are bringing students on a bus, make sure that you contact Tracy Schell, the interim parking manager for the city of Lansing, and she will be able to coordinate with you to ensure that there's places blocked off for your buses to pull off the road to let your students on and off the bus. Okay, I want to give you a quick overview of the schedule of the day, especially if you have not attended the Career Development Conference in the past. This will be new, so of course you'll get a schedule when you arrive, but just to give you an overview of the day, student registration will begin at 9 a.m. in the morning, with the first event of the day being our opening remarks at 10. So you'll notice it's a pretty big window of time there. If everyone were to arrive right at 10, that would make registration a bit of a hassle, so I try and get there before 10. The closer to 9, the better. I know for some people it's just not feasible, especially those of you traveling from further away, that students, are still being bused to school or whatever your arrangements are. But try to leave yourself as much time as possible. Also, make sure you account for the fact that wherever you park, you'll then need to walk up to the registration area, so you'll need to allow a little bit of time there. So at 10 a.m. we'll have our opening remarks, which is when Kristen and Jan will just welcome everyone to the event. From there, students will be dismissed to their first session of events, which will begin at 10:20. And sessions this year are going to run for 40 minutes, which is 5 minutes longer than last year's sessions. And transitions are only going to be 10 minutes, which is reduced from the 15 minutes they were last year. And so the events will be a little longer and the transitions will be a little shorter. So they'll transition to their session 2 events, which begin at 11:10. And then they transition to lunch. So our lunch setup will be very similar to last year, where everyone will immediately, upon entrance there, they'll go ahead and grab their lunches and head back to their tables to eat. All the tables will be set up with table tents that will say where you're seated. So when you arrive in the morning, make sure you're looking out for the table with your group's name on it. But so you'll sit in that same spot for lunch. Once everyone's seated and ready for lunch, we will have another welcome for the afternoon, as well as our annual awards, which will be the presentation of our Alumni of the Year, Specialist of the Year. We'll have Manager of the Year, Advocate of the Year, and Employer Champion of the Year. So there will be a handful of awards there. And then following that, we will have a guest speaker who is Byron Garrett. I believe I've posted his bio on Slack already. He's a really fascinating guy. So if you haven't had a chance to read up a little bit on him already, I encourage you to do so. I actually heard him speak at the JAG National Training Seminar in July in Orlando. He was one of the speakers there, and I was just blown away. And so I'm really looking forward to the message he has to share with Team JMG from across the state. After our guest speaker, we'll lead into our event ceremonies. So we will be giving out the awards for all the events that were held in the morning. And that will run, I know it was a little rushed if you attended last year, so we're going to try and put that at a more manageable pace, followed by a dismissal. So that's the overview of the day. We do hope everyone will be planning to stay the entire length of the event. And if for some reason you and your group need to leave early, please let me know so that we can coordinate that, just so we can make it a smooth transition for you. As always, if you have any questions as I'm going along, feel free to type them in the chat box or go ahead and just speak up on the call is fine too. Okay, so now I'm going to go in detail over those various aspects of the day. So you should see on your screen right now a map of the Lansing Center. It shows the main level is on the top, and then the second floor is down below. So the registration is going to be down the main hallway, which they refer to as the main concourse. Wherever you end up parking, you'll basically be dumped into the concourse from whichever door you come in, so you can't really miss it. So there's the main concourse, and it's kind of hard to tell, but right in the middle of there, that's a set of stairs, which is actually where if you park in the parking garage down below, those stairs are how you'll enter the building up from the lower level. So we will have a registration area set up in the main concourse. If you attended last year, we're going to be following the same process. But we'll have a table set up, and each specialist or manager, whoever's attending with a group, will just need to go up to registration. There will be a sheet where you'll just check off which students are in attendance, which hopefully it should be everyone that you registered or anyone who's filling in for someone who may have been unable to attend at the last minute. And then you'll grab a bag that will have lanyards for your students or youth. It will have programs for the day, and it will have any t-shirts that you may have pre-ordered. So there's no need for all the students to go up and register. They don't need to individually sign in or anything. Just one of the adults chaperoning the group can go ahead and grab all the information for everyone and bring it back to their group. Okay, so during the registration, just remember if a student is not able to attend, we ask that you please send an alternate in their place. We have set up the day to run a specific way based on the number of students we had registered, as far as how many volunteers we have in each room and how many students we have registered for each of the events. So if one of your students is unable to attend, please plan to bring someone else in their place so that we don't have judges sitting in empty rooms with no one to judge. And so we can, I mean, if something happens and you're not able to get a replacement, please let me know so that we can try and adjust the scheduling as needed to make the day the best it can be for everyone. As far as what to do once you arrive, I know that I had said from 9 a.m. to 10 or about 9:50 is when you can register and arrive, which leaves you some time before the opening remarks at 10. So we will have an area set up where you can take group photos. You're welcome to walk around with your students to see where the different event rooms are to ensure that everyone knows where they need to go. I would also encourage you to look over your student schedules with them to make sure they know which events they're going to, make sure they have any supplies they may have needed to bring with them for an event. And then also this year we will be having some college and career booths set up. This year they will be located in the same room as the main session, which is ballrooms 1 through 6. So I would encourage you to make sure your students engage with those booths and take advantage of that opportunity to learn about the various things they have to present on. So then after you're all registered, you'll go ahead and find your seat in the ballrooms. We will have table tents on there listing which schools various tables are reserved for. So just make sure you're finding the table with your name on it so that everyone will be sitting together from your group. Another reason we do this is because we have invited our volunteers to join us for lunch and for the afternoon, and seeing those locations on the tables helps them know who to sit with. So the idea being that you will be sitting with the volunteers who are attending from your area. So it's a great opportunity for your students to interact with those volunteer judges that you've recruited. So just make sure that you're mindful of that and that you are sitting in the correct spot. So go ahead and make sure you're seated before the 10 a.m. start time, since we have a very small window there for the morning session. Then after that, everyone will be dismissed. So this can be a bit chaotic. If you've been there in the past, you know it's all 400 people standing up and trying to leave the room at once. So that's why it is important for your students to know where they need to go after that session. So make sure they know where their first session is located. I would ask that the specialists and managers kind of just spread out throughout the venue rather than just staying in the room, you know, working on your laptop or whatever. I would ask you to get up and just make sure everyone is, you know, on their way to the right location. Be familiar with the venue so you can help direct any students. We will, of course, have staff on site to do that, but the more people who know what's going on, the better. Another thing to note that you'll see on your student schedules when you arrive, but that some of the events will have multiple sessions going on at the same time. For example, each public speaking session, there's only time for about 8 students to go per session, but we had 16 register. So there will be public speaking 1 and public speaking 2 going on at the exact same time. So if your students are in an event that has multiple sessions going on at the same time, just make sure they're mindful of that and that they're headed to the right room for whichever of the 2 or 3 sessions they are registered for. After the 40-minute first session of events, students will be dismissed. They'll have, oh, sorry, I skipped over something there. So they have their dismissal from the first session, then they're in their sessions for 40 minutes. So during this time, you as a specialist or manager, this is something we haven't done in the past, but this year I would welcome you to observe your students in their events. So you're welcome to go and watch them, unless, of course, they've told you that it would make them uncomfortable and they'd rather you not. But for the most part, I don't think that will be an issue. So yes, you can observe events this year, and Deborah James asked, can we observe the JMG Bowl? And yes, you can. We're opening up events this year for specialists to observe. You're also welcome to stay and network in the main session. We will have Wi-Fi available this year. So we don't want everyone just head down working while you're there, but if there's something you absolutely have to get done, there will be Wi-Fi. But I would encourage you to use this time to observe your students, to network with the other folks from JMG, and also to engage with the college and career booths. So we have these booths there for the entire morning session, and as you know, your youth are engaged in activities doing their competitions. So there's a lot of downtime for those folks who have volunteered to come and host booths. So I would ask that if you're not observing your students, that you go ahead and make sure you stop by the booths as well to see what kind of opportunities they may have available. Some booths that are attending are going to have some employment opportunities. Some of them might be interested in coming and speaking to your youth. So just make sure you take advantage of that opportunity while your students are in session. Okay, so following their first session, of course, that goes for 40 minutes. Then they have a 10-minute transition to their second event. The only exception to this is for the JMG Bowl, which is an event that takes much longer and spans both time slots. So those students will get a break, but then they'll just transition back to the same room they were in before. So during this time, students will go ahead and transition. I would encourage them, just as a reminder, you can use the restroom, get a drink, whatever you need to do during that time. And I would ask you all to go ahead and just spread out, make sure no one's, wandering, not knowing where they're supposed to go. And once again, the booths will be open during this time. So if for some reason your students are dismissed early, from one event, so they have more than 10 minutes, you could always encourage them to go check out the booths during that time. And then for the second session, very similar to the first, students will be in their events. You're welcome to observe, network with other specialists in the main ballroom, or go ahead and engage with those college and career booths. Okay, so I have another map on here. This is just a close-up of that first floor that shows the ballrooms, which is where our main sessions will be. This is also where we will be having lunch. So it will be set as one big room with round tables for you to sit at. So we'll have the lunch buffet in there as well. So after the second session of events conclude, all the students will be herded into this room. So once again, I would ask that you help make this a smooth transition, help your students get to their seat as quickly as they can so that we don't have people just up wandering, so that everyone can get to their seat and we can get to our afternoon events. So I know in the past you specialists and managers have done an exceptional job of helping with these transitions. As you can imagine, it can be chaotic with so many people moving around. So thank you for always being willing to jump in and help with that type of thing, and I would just ask that you do it once again this year. So for our afternoon, we'll have lunch. We'll be available right at 12. So everyone will just need to grab their food, take it back to their seat. We ask you once again to sit with your students, as well as to welcome any volunteers from your region to sit with you. So we'll have about 30 minutes after everyone has gotten, the 12 is when lunch will open, so they'll have about 30 minutes from then until when our welcome will start. So that's why it might be a little rushed, but it shouldn't be too bad right there. So about 12:30, we'll have a welcome, and then we'll also do some special awards during that time. We'll recognize our Alumni of the Year, Specialist of the Year, Manager of the Year, Advocate, and Employer Champions. Following that, we'll hear from our guest speaker, and then the big grand event of our event winners being announced. We're working out a process for this year to make photos during this time go a little more smoothly than they have in years past. So we will have places set up for students to get a picture with their awards. So just be on the lookout for any additional information about how to make sure that's a smooth transition so people aren't blocking each other for pictures and whatnot. But then after all our awards have been passed out, we will be dismissed. We anticipate that being about 2:30 p.m. Last year we were out a little early. I don't anticipate that happening again this year, as we've been working out a different process for passing out the awards. So I do anticipate it will go till the full 2:30. But once again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but if for some reason your group must be on the road by a certain time, please let me know so we can try and make any adjustments to help you get out the door when you need to leave. Okay, I've already mentioned it, but I just want to circle back on the fact that we will have some college and career booths set up. We have about 5 booths confirmed so far. So if you have anyone or you have any connections with a college or with an employer or a training facility who might be interested in sharing information with our students, please reach out to them and invite them to attend. These booth hosts are welcome to stay for lunch and to listen to our guest speaker. So there is a form they can complete. It's on the Slack channel, CDC 2017, or I can email it to you if you're having any problems accessing it online. So like I said already before, please encourage your students to visit these booths. They'll be set up a little differently than they have been in years past, whereas they'll be in our main session room. So there's no way you can miss them. I know last year they were kind of down the hallway, a little harder to find. So they will be in the main room, and just please encourage your students to interact with them. Okay, so many of the competitive events that your students are registered for require some preparation on their part prior to arriving at the CDC. So the information packets about each event have been posted on Slack that explain anything they need to have prepared to present or anything they need to bring with them. So last week you should have received confirmation of which events your students will be attending. If you did not receive an email telling you or confirming which events your students need to be prepared for, please let me know immediately. My hope is that everyone will know what they're doing and have with them what they need so that it could just be the best day for everyone possible. So once again, if you did not receive confirmation of your students' events, please reach out to me on Slack. You can call me or email me. Okay, the question everyone always asks is, what should we wear? So everyone needs to be dressed professionally. So I would just prompt your students by asking, what would you wear to an interview? Especially those students who will be giving some type of a presentation or who will be in the mock interview session. Part of the judging criteria is based on their overall presentation, including what they're wearing. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be clean and neat and professional. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know. We ask that the specialists and managers go ahead and dress up a little bit too. Just think what you would wear to work one day is what you should wear to the CDC. We want to make it a professional environment for our students. And if you are dressed up as well, I think that just adds to it and makes it real exceptional. So that would be great if you could plan on that. For guest speakers, I would encourage you to have your students do a little research on our guest speaker, or he's written a couple books, so you could encourage them to go ahead and look into the books that he's written for a little background about him prior to attending the CDC if you have time. If you don't, no big deal, but if you do, that might make them a little more excited for his presentation. All right, and then something I don't believe we've hit on in years past is that we will have some special guests attending the CDC. For example, some legislators are planning to attend. One or two of them are planning to judge, and then we also have some that are attending just to meet with your students. So if we have confirmation of your students, one of your legislators attending, we'll let you know. But we want to make sure that's a priority for you to get connected with them at the CDC if they're planning to be there. We did extend invitations to the representatives and senators from each of your districts, so they were invited. If you invited one personally and you know that they're planning to attend, please let me know so that we can make sure we greet them appropriately upon their arrival. Another thing to keep an eye out for is that in addition to some legislators, our recently onboarded board members for Youth Solutions will be in attendance as well. So I know you won't recognize them all by face or names, but just keep that in mind that they will be in attendance so that they're excited to see the CDC and to see what JMG looks like firsthand. Okay, I'm going to kind of circle back here and talk about the judges that you have all been recruiting, which once again, thank you so much for your efforts on that part. I would ask that any judges you've connected with that you know are planning to attend, please circle back with them this week. Of course, I've been communicating with them as well, providing them with additional information. But if you could please also just reach out and confirm they are attending, that would be excellent. They have received event-specific information from me. So they've received information on where to park. They have received information on where to go when they enter the building, where they need to register, as well as which event they will be judging. So they should be well prepared. I just ask that you help to confirm that they'll all be there. If you recognize any judges that you've recruited, please be sure to welcome them when you see them at the CDC and introduce yourself if you've never met them in person. Invite them to sit with your group for lunch, as well as to follow up with a thank you note. So the statewide team and myself will be sending a general thank you to all volunteers, but if you were instrumental in getting them there in the first place, or if it's someone you already have a connection with, I would ask that you just follow up with a thank you note to them. And then any additional information will be posted on the CDC Slack channel. I know a couple people have asked me how to find the pinned items, so I'm going to pull that up real quickly for you to see here. So when you're logged into Slack, there is, on the left-hand side, you have all your channels. It's the channel titled CDC 2017 is where I've been posting all this information. If you are not in that channel already, you can just join that channel or any channel by clicking where it says channels in bold. You just click on that, and then here you would just type in CDC and then select CDC 2017. So if you haven't joined that group already, that's how you do so. As far as how to find the pinned items, so in Slack we have the ability to, it's referred to as pinning. It's just how we mark something so it's easily found again. So up right next to the search bar in the upper right-hand corner, there's the channel details button. You'll click on that. And then you can see here where it says pinned items. So these are any documents that I've uploaded that I wanted to make sure you could find easily. So those are all located there. There's the booth reservation form that I referenced earlier for if you want to invite anyone to host a booth. There's also the invitation if you have any more volunteers you want to send that to. And then there's the overview of the competitive events as well as additional detailed documents about each of the events. So any information that comes up before April 20th will be posted on Slack. If it's urgent, of course, I'll email you just to ensure that everyone sees that. But I want to pause and just see if anyone has any questions before we wrap up for the day. So if you have questions, please go ahead and just speak up, or you can type it in that chat box. Okay, so Megan commented she's assuming the PowerPoint will be posted in Slack to reference the maps. Yes, it will be. Of course, I'll post it on there along with a recording of the webinar. So also the maps are also just the general maps for Lansing Center are located on their website. That's where I pulled the pictures from. So if you want one, you can just grab it there. We'll also have printouts of the maps available the day of the CDC. But yes, to answer your question, I will upload the PowerPoint to Slack. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. If any questions come up, if you go ahead and post them on the Slack channel, CDC 2017, I'll be sure to answer them on there. Of course, you can email or call me, but if you post it on Slack, then everyone's able to see the answer, which can be helpful. So as Megan is just commenting, yes, it's going to be awesome. I am really looking forward to the CDC. It's one of my favorite days of the year. So I look forward to seeing you all in Lansing. Be sure to reach out with any questions you have leading up to the 20th. And I hope you have an excellent afternoon, and I will see you next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.